Ayan, so good day everyone. So I would like to discuss to you the modules 2, 3, and 4 of our pre-calculus. Okay, so ito yung tatlong nahuhuli nating topic for our pre-calculus. So I will discuss it recordedly and I hope na intindihan nyo and gawa na lang po ng ating mga exercises. Okay, and make sure na matatapos natin yun and may pangako ko sa inyo, you will have a better grade. Okay, so for a unit circle, so first and foremost, so we are entering or we are discussing the part of trigonometry. Okay, so for the trigonometry, we will, of course, ang pinakamahalaga dito is the angles and the triangles. Okay? So, yung triangle kasi, ibig sabihin ng triangle. So, three angles. Okay? So, unit circle. So, nagsimula yan sa lahat sa unit circle. And, ang pinakamahalagang parameter na meron tayo sa unit circle is the angles. Okay? First, angles. What is angles? Or let's define first angles. Angles are being used in several fields like engineering. So, di ba, may mga angles tayo. Especially kapag civil yung kukuhanin nyo in the future. Kung sukat-sukat ka ng daan, ng lupa, ng bahay. Yun. So, that's an angle. Medical imaging, electronics, astronomy, geography, and many more. So added to that, surveyors, pilots, landscapers, designers, soldiers, and people and many other professionals heavily use angles and trigonometry to accomplish a variety of practical tasks. So guys, in this lesson, we will deal with the basics of angle measures together with arc length and sector. So ano nga ba ang mga angles? Yun yung mga may degrees. Okay? So pwede nating ilipat o i-transform sa hanapin natin equivalent regions ng ating mga degrees. Okay? So, angle measure. So, angle measure is formed by rotating a ray about its endpoint. So, di ba ang ray ay yung ganito? Yan, ray ang tawag dyan, yung line tapos may arrow sa taas. That is ray. Okay? And kapag gumalaw daw siya, so let's say gumalaw siya pa ganun, so nandito na siya. Yung paggalaw na yun, nagkaroon siya ng angle. Yan, so angle. Like this one, so ang initial angle nito ay dito, so initial side, then gumalaw siya pa ganun, yan. So nandito na yung terminal side niya, yung top final side niya. And nung gumalaw siya, nakagawa siya ng angle. Bakit positive angle? So, sabi dito, an angle is said to be positive if the ray rotates in a counterclockwise. Kapag counterclockwise pala, positive yung nagagawa natin. So, ibig sabihin, ang galing siya dito, gumalaw siya counterclockwise, so makukuha natin ay positive angle. Let's say this is positive 60 degrees. And that 60 degrees, meron siyang corresponding radian. Okay? So mamaya malalaman natin paano nag-compute ng radian. Ay guys, paano naman kapag, di ba, ito uli yung initial side, ay count clockwise. Clockwise naman yung ating direction ng ikot. So magkakaroon tayo ng negative angle, let's say, negative 60 degrees. Okay? So tatandaan po natin yun. Ibig sabihin, hahanapin natin yung initial at terminal side niya kung paano ba umikot. Ay sir, paano po wag lang ganito? Paano po sa pag may ganito? Ayan. Ibig sabihin, positive po yung angle dito, which is, kung 60 ito, so 360 ang isang buo, so 300, ibig sabihin ito pala ay positive 300 degrees. At tawag naman po dito sa negative 60 at 300, since pareho lang naman siya ng terminal at initial side, siyang dalawang yan ay co-terminal to each other. Ibig sabihin, iisa ang binagsakan, iisa ang position. Ay, paano kapag umikot pa uli ng isa? Sir, ito po, negative 60. Ay, nag-ikot pong gano'n, dalawa. Ayun. So, ibig sabihin ito ay negative 420 kasi babawasan mo pa siya ng negative 3, ng 360. So, ibig sabihin, yung tatlong yan, 400 coterminal angles. Okay? Ganun ang tawag doon. Okay? So, ang angle is a standard point if it's drawn in the xy plane, which is vertex at the origin, and its initial side on the positive x-axis. So, the angle alpha, beta, and theta in the following figures are angle in the standard forms. Okay? So, negative yung beta, positive yung alpha, and positive din yung theta dito. Okay? So, to measure angles, we use degrees, minutes, seconds, and radians. Okay? So, sabi dito, a central angle of a circle measures 1 degree, written 1, tapos yung may bilog. So, 1, tapos yan na, degrees. If it intercepts 1 over 360, ibig sabihin 1 degree per 1 revolution or 360 degrees of the circumference of the circle. So 1 minute written, 1 tapos gitling. So 1 tapos gitling, 1 minute yon. So 1 over 60 naman ang tawag doon. And of 1 degree. While 1 second ay 2 gitling. So 1 over 60 naman ang 1 minute. Okay? A central angle of the unit circles that intercept of an arc with length 1 unit is said to have a measure of 1 radian. So 1 radian naman yung isang unit ng isang arc ng ating circle. And yung 1 radian na yan equals kay 57.3. So paano siya nangyayari? Tingnan natin sa conversion kung ilang degrees yun. Paano natin malalaman na yung 1 radian is equal to 57.3 degrees. Okay? So conversion of degrees to radian and vice versa. Kapag po magko-convert tayo from degree, so given sa ating degree, dadalhin natin sa radian. Okay? I-multiply down lang natin sa 180. Okay? So let's say we have 30 degrees. So mamaya tayo mag-example para madami example dito sa baba. So kapag naman radian ang ating lalagay sa degree, so multiply daw natin siya sa 180 pi. Okay. So ba kanina meron daw tayong 1 radian. Times daw natin kay 180 over pi. So ang sagot niyan ay 180 over pi divided by pi, which is 57.29 degrees. Or ito yun. Or 57.3. So, di ba? Ganun lang kadali. Okay? So, yung picture nitong below, na nasa baba is the special angles. Ibig sabihin, yan yung mga saktuhan ang mga radian measurement nila. Okay? So, ito yung inati natin by 30s or by 45 degrees. Okay? So, let's say yung 30 degrees. Yung 30 degrees, para makuha natin yung pi over 6, multiply natin siya pag degrees daw kay pi over 180. So, this is 6. So, therefore, ang 30 degrees ay pi over 6. Okay? Let's say naman, ang given naman sa atin 4 pi over 3. Kukuhanin natin yung 240. Then, multiply natin siya kay, pag given ng radian, multiply natin kay 180 over pi. So, cancel, and then ito ay cancel natin, ito is 60. 40 times 60 is 240 degrees. And that's it. Ganun lang kadali ang paggagawa ng angle. Okay? So, paano naman kapag sabi, kuhanin mo ang coterminal na 150 into revolution. Yan, to revolution daw. So, sa ang unang revolution, pag ganon, makatapos sa isang revolution, pumunta doon. So, isang 360. So, 150 plus 360 plus isa pa ulit revolution. Sabi dalawang revolution. Plus 360. Ayan. So, ilan daw yan? So, 150 plus 360 plus 360 is equal to 870 degrees. So, yun yung ating coterminal ng 150 in 2 revolution. So, parang ganito lang parang ginawa niyan. 360, tapos ilang revolution daw? Dalawa. So, yan ang magiging formula niya. 150 yung given plus 360 times kung ilang revolution. And that's it. Okay? Paano naman kapag negative? Negative yung pasok. So, let's say, di ba, itong 330, siya ay negative 30 degrees din. Okay? So, multiply lang natin siya. Kung negative 300, kung pabalik daw ang revolution niya, so, ima-minus natin. Kapag pabalik positive naman ang revolution niya, ipa-plus lang natin. So, ganun lang yung ating gagawin dito sa coterminal angle. So, hindi ko na siya i-discuss since ganun naman ang ating ginawa. Okay? So, hindi na ako maglalagay ng example kasi ganito na yung magiging example natin. So, very, very easy lang pag ko-convert na degree to radian and radian to degree at also paghahanap ng coterminal angles. Okay? So, punta tayo sa circular function. So, this is one of the very interesting topic when it comes to our trigonometry. Okay? So, kilalanin na natin yung circular function. So, we have 6 circular functions. Okay? So, tinatawag namin siya ang SOHCAHTOA. Okay? SOHCAHTOA. So, bakit? Kasi sa sine, cosine, and tangent. So, alamin natin mamaya kung bakit ba sa SOHCAHTOA. Okay? So, the 6 trigonometric ratios are defined in the following based on this right triangle. So, galing na talaga siya sa right triangle and the angle theta. Okay? So, we have the right triangle here. And then, naglagay tayo ng theta dito. Of course, yung katapat niya, opposite niya yon. And yung kanyang katabing side is the adjacent. And the longest side of the triangle, right triangle, is the hypotenuse. Okay? So, hypotenuse. Yeah, so hypotenuse. Then adjacent and the opposite. So gamit yung tatlong side na yan at yung angle, makakakuha tayo ng 6 trigonometric identities at trigonometric ratios or 6 circular functions or trigonometric functions. Okay? Excuse me. So sabi, di ba, opposite over hypotenuse. Okay? So, opposite over hypotenuse, sine theta pala ang tawag doon. Pag opposite over hypotenuse. Sir, paano naman pag adjacent over hypotenuse? Ang tawag doon ay cosine. Ayan. Sir, paano naman pag opposite over adjacent? Ang tawag doon ay tangent. Okay? So, baliktarin natin. Sir, hypotenuse over opposite. Tawag doon ay cosecant theta. Therefore, si cosecant theta pala ay equals kay 1 over sine kasi binaliktad lang natin yung sine. Di ba? Katulad ni secant, hypotenuse over adjacent. Ibig sabihin, si secant ay equals kay 1 over cosine. And also, si cotangent. Si cotangent equals kay adjacent over opposite. So therefore, si cotangent theta equals to 1 over tangent theta. Diba? Very easy lang ang ating gagalawin. So, example tayo. Example. So example number 1. Find the exact value of all 6 trigonometric functions of the angles shown in the figure. So meron tayong bumaba yung atin. So, nandito yung angle. Ito yung phi. So, nandito yung angle. Wala dyan. So, 13, 5. At saka, let's say, dito yung adjacent natin. Or, let's say, B. Okay? So, this is A. This is B. C. Okay? So, we have kukuhanin natin muna yung b na nawawala. So by trigonometric function, so by the trigonometric ratio, we have the a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, where a and b are the sides and c is the hypotenuse. Okay? So a squared equals plus b squared equals c squared. Since ang hinahanap sa atin ay b, so we have by transpose, so c squared is equal minus a squared. So ililipat natin doon. Then take the square root. So b is equal to 13 squared minus 5 squared. So sa calculator natin, ang sagot doon is 13 squared minus 5 squared is 12. So ang b pala natin is 12. So kompleto na tayo. So ano ang sin theta natin? So ang sin theta natin, opposite over hypotenuse. Ang opposite ng theta is 5. And ang ating hypotenuse is 13. So ganun yan. Therefore, ang cosecant theta natin is equal, dahil kabaliktaran siya, 13 over 5. Okay? Then cosine theta. Ano naman cosine natin? Adjacent over hypotenuse. So 12 over 13. Therefore, ang ating secant theta equals kay 13 over 12. O, diba? O, diba? Madali lamang. And then we have the tangent theta. Yan. So, ang tangent theta natin, opposite over adjacent. So, we have the 5 over 12. So, walang kahirap-hirap. Ang cotangent, baliktaran lang natin, 12 over 5. O, diba? Marami no. Okay. So, diretso tayo, diretso. Napakadali lang naman pala ng pre-calculus. Dalin-dali. So, sana, dahil madali lang, huwag na tayong tatamad din. Okay, huwag na tayong tatamad din mag-solve ng ating mga exercises. Okay? Punta tayo sa special angles. So, what is the special angles? Diba? Nakita na natin yung mga special angles dito. Dito sa unit circles. Okay? Yun yung special angles. So, di ba? Yung mga direct saktuhan, yung mga region. Okay? So, ano naman na meron sa special angles? So, special angles natin. Yung mga sine at cosine ng special angles natin ay siyempre sakto din. Okay? Sakto din yung ating special angles. So, let's say, yung 30 degrees, so we have ang theta, ang by radius siya ay 5 over 6. Ang sin theta, or ibig sabihin, sin 30 degrees is 1/2. Pag kinalculator nyo yan, sin 60, so make sure na naka-degree mode tayo. So sin 30, sa pag kinalculator natin yan, ang lalabas is 1/2. And then kapag nag-radian tayo, nilagay natin sa calculator natin ang radian, at nilagay natin ay sin 1/2, ang sin pi over 6, ang lalabas sa atin ay 1/2. So, ibig sabihin, ito guys, ay ito yung mga mahalagang angles. Na ito yung mga, kahit hindi natin calculator, ay calcu, ay kaya natin sauluhin. Means, nung kami ay high school guys, just to share, sinaulo namin to. And may pattern naman yan. Bakit? Ano, katulad nito, yung 30 at 60, baliktaran lang yan. Tapos ang 45, para-pareho lang yan. Yan, ito. Yan. Tapos baliktaran uli ito. Tapos ito, reciprocal lang. Reciprocal lang ito, pero itong equal. So, di ba? So, pareho lang po yan. So, ito yung sinasaulo. Even as a unit circle, ayan yan na yung kompleto. Yan, kompleto na yan. Sinaulo namin yan dati. Yan, pabuhat 0 to 360. And madali lang siya sauluhin kasi siya ay may pattern. Makikita nyo ang pattern. Since hindi naman kailangan sauluhin nyo, so pwede naman calculator. So, syempre, nung ako po ay nag-aaral ng high school, hindi po uso sa amin ang magandang calculator. So, sauluhin po talaga dito. Okay? So, apply natin sa solving problem. Okay? Sa problem solving, rather. Okay? So, at a certain point, the angle of elevation of the top of the flagpole, so we have the flagpole here, at the elevation niya daw is 35 degrees. And 75 feet nearer the pole. So lumakad daw, for example, nandito ka, tapos lumakad ka papunta doon. At ang angle elevation daw is 50 degrees. Of course, kapag palapit ka sa isang bagay, mas lalaki yung angle of elevation kasi mas titingala ka, di ba? Kapag mataas yung kaharap mo, titingala ka. Pero pag lumayo ka ng kaunti, hindi mo na kailangang tumingala kasi mas makikita mo na siya. Okay? So, ang tinatanong sa atin, ano daw yung height natin? How high ito sa pole? So, pwede natin kuhanin yung distance din, yung natitirang distance papuha sa pole, yung terminal point mo, or pwedeng diretso na natin. So, kayo bahala. So, gamitin natin. So, we have, di ba, angle to, angle. So, meron tayo, ang hinahanap natin opposite. Asan ba tayo pwedeng gumamit? Wala naman tayong may given tayo sa ating figure, meron tayong pang adjacent sa opposite. Excuse me, ano ang trigonometric function na may opposite at angle? Di ba cotangent lang at tangent? Eh bakit pa tayo magko-cotangent kung pwede naman tangent, di ba? So, kuhanin natin. So, i-equate natin kay tangent. So, alin ang itatangent natin? Unahin natin itong 50. Ito mas maliit na triangle. Ang tawag dito, similar triangle. Kasi meron silang similar side, which is yung H. Okay? So, which is yung hinahanap natin. So, tangent 50 degrees is equal to, anong opposite niya? H. And ang kanyang adjacent is letter T. Okay? Sunod, yung tangent, 35 degrees naman. So, yung tangent 35 degrees naman ay opposite niya pa gan is H, yung height natin, over, and then yung ating D at saka yung 75. Kasi itong buong ito, ang kanyang adjacent. So, D plus 75 degrees. Okay? Sunod. So, since ang hinahanap natin ay H, huwag na natin hanapin D, hindi naman kailangan. H na lang. So, dapat, yung D nito, yung D na ito, papalitan natin ng dito, galing dito. Okay? So, ito, magiging, so, D is equal to H over tangent 50 degrees. Tama? So, pagpalitin lang natin position. And yung D na ito, papalitan natin ito. Okay? So, we have tangent 35 degrees is equal to H over tangent 50 degrees plus 75. So, may 20 degrees ito. Resolve natin kay H. Okay? So, by algebra lang, madali lang. So, kuhanin muna natin ang tangent 35 degrees. So, tangent 35 degrees ay 0.7. 0.7. H over 1 over tangent 50 degrees. So, 1 over ay 0.884 H plus 75. Okay, so multiply natin. So, multiply natin doon. So, 0.7 times 0.84 is 0.588 H plus the 0.7 plus 75. 0.7 times 75 is 52.5 is equal to H. And then, transpose natin dito. So, 1 minus 0.588, 1 minus 0.588, so 0.412 H is equal to 52.5. Then divide both sides by 0.412. Ang h natin is, so 52.5 divided by 0.412 is 52.5 divided by 0.412 is 127.43. This is feet. Okay? So, yan po ang height ng ating pole. Okay? Okay, so punta tayo sa example number 3. Okay? So, una, two towers are 60 meter apart. So, dalawa daw tower. Dalawang tower. At pagitan nila ay 60 meters. Okay. From the top of the shorter tower, ito yung shorter tower, the angle of elevation of the top of the taller tower is 40 degrees. Kung for example, tumayo ka dini, tapos dumapa ka pala, tapos sinilip mo yung tuktok ng pangalawang tower. At yun ay na-measure mo ng 40 degrees. Okay? So still, ang pagitan nito, 60 degrees pa rin to. Okay? How high is the taller tower? If the height, so ano daw ang height nitong taller tower, yung mas mataas na tower, kung ang sukat daw ng tower ay na mas maliit is 40 meters. Okay? So, paano ang gagawin natin? Wala na naman tayong hypotenuse, meron na naman tayo ay adjacent, at ang hinahanap natin ay opposite. Therefore, tangent ulit ang gagamitin natin. And tangent, 40 degrees. Of course, then 40 degrees yung given sa atin. Okay? And then, sir, ang opposite po is, ano po sukat nun ni H po ay buo naman yung tower. Diba makikita nyo? 40. So, diba? Ibig sabihin, 40 plus, let's say, S ito, S. So, S muna. So, S is equal to S over 60. Ito yung adjacent. And then, S is equal to 60 tangent 40 degrees. Okay, so 60 tangent 40 degrees. S is equal to, so ang S natin ay 60 tangent 40, 50. 50.35 meters. Ito ay, ang S ay 50.35 meters. Ayan tinatanong, gaano kataas yung tower? Yun lang kapataas na yun. Therefore, i-plus natin yung 40. Kasi, ang bilang naman ng 50.35 ay pagkatapos ng 40 meters. Hindi naman siya bundok. Okay, ibig sabihin pareho ang ground level niya. Therefore, ang height ay equals kay S plus 40, which is 50.35 meters plus 40 meters, which is 90.35 meters. And that's it. Walang kahirap-hirap. Ano ba naman tong ating topic? Very, very easy. Okay? So, nakuha ba natin? Sana nakuha natin yun. Okay? So, pwede pa ulit-ulitin ang ating discussion ito. Okay? Okay. So, last example natin is a ladder. Mayroon daw ladder with its foot in the street makes an angle of 30 degrees. Okay? So, 30 degrees daw yung isang ladder. Ito yung isang ladder. When its top rests on a building on one side of the street and makes an angle, ang isa naman ay 40 degrees with the street when its top rests on a building on the other side. Okay, so parang magkaganunan, nagkakaganon ng hagdan. Yan yung nakikita nyo kung ano, parang kina Harry Potter. Di ba ganun yung mga hagdan sa Hogwarts? Nag-ikot-ikot, naging gano'n. Tapos pag gano'n mo, lilipat ka sa kabila. Gano'n. Okay? So, if the ladder daw is 50 feet long, so kung 50 feet long daw yung ladder, how wide is the street? So, kung parang 50 is, ano daw, yung parang silang 50 ang sukat. Okay? So, gaano daw kahaba yung street? So, kuhanin natin. So, kuhanin natin yung itong side na ito, then i-add natin sa side na ito. Okay? Meron tayong 50 which is hypotenuse. Meron tayong hypotenuse, angle, at saka adjacent. Ano ang kailangan natin gawin? Di ba? Ang hypotenuse, adjacent, cosine or secant lang yan. Di ba? Since, bakit tayo magsa-secant kung pwede mang cosine na mas madali, di ba? So, cosine theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay? So, unahin natin itong side na ito. Yan. So, cosine 30 degrees is equal to, ang adjacent natin is x over 50. So, therefore, x is equal to 50 cosine 30 degrees. Yan. So, ito namang 40 degrees. So, cosine 40 degrees is equal to, ang adjacent natin is y over 50 pa rin. So, y is equal to 50 cosine 40 degrees. Okay? And, excuse me, how wide? So, pag-add natin si x plus y, which is, so 50 cosine 30. So, ilan yun? So, 25 square root of 3 plus si 50 cosine 40 naman ay 38.30 feet. Okay? Which is, W is equal to, pag pinagsama natin siya ay 81.60 feet long. Okay, so this is the answer. So walang kahirap-hirap, walang ka-challenge. Okay, so that's it for the circular function. So we have, for to wrap up, we have the sine, cosine, tangent, cotangent, secant, and cosecant. So titingnan lang natin kung nasan yung opposite, yung adjacent, at yung ating hypotenuse. Okay? So, hop! So punta naman tayo kay algebra. So, syempre, may algebra na meron tayong tinatawag sa trigonometric function. At ito yung isa sa mga pinakamahirap pagdating sa engineering, itong trigonometric identities. Ang dami kasi niya, pero syempre, hindi ko di-discuss lahat. Ang di-discuss ko lamang sa inyo ay yung pinakamadadali lamang. Okay? Excuse me. So, yung algebra of circular function, so para lang tayo mga commutative property, associative property, associative identity, commutative identity. Ganun lang din, katulad ng algebra natin. Diba? So, kailangan na identity, but equals yung left ka right para maging identity. Kasi sabi, by definition, an identity is an equality between two expressions. And real numbers substituted for the angle theta, the two quantities will always be equal. So, pag nag-equals ka, naglagay ka daw dito ng angle theta, dapat lagi siyang 1 daw. Okay? So, dito sa ano, for example, we have the sine theta, cosine theta is equal to sine 2 theta over 2. So, pag naglagay ka dito, naglat ka as theta is equal to 45 degrees, dapat kung anong sagot dito, yun din ang sagot sa kahit side. Yun ibig sabihin ng identity. Okay? So, let's say that let P of theta will be a net point of this unit circle. Since cosine theta is equal to x, right, by unit circle or known region natin, sine theta is equal to y. So, this is, ito galing sa Cartesian plane. Satisfy the equation of unit circle, x squared plus y squared equals to 1. So, yung x daw equals kay cosine, so cosine squared theta. Then yung y equals kay sine theta, therefore sine squared theta equals to 1. So, ito na yung ating trigonometric. Since ito ay trigonometric, yung ating formula ng circle ay trigonometric identity ang tawag dito. Okay? So, may mga kasamahan pa yan. Mamaya. So, quotient identity. So, 1 over quotient of identity. So, the tangent function is defined as, yung tangent natin ay sine over cosine. Diba? Opposite over, Diba? Opposite over hypotenuse. Yung side. opposite over hypotenuse. Then, cosine ay adjacent over hypotenuse. So, cancel natin yan. Ang opposite over adjacent ay equals kay tangent. So, kaya naging sine over cosine si tangent. Therefore, dahil kabaliktaran nga ni tangent si cotangent naman ay ratio ni cosine at saka sine. Okay? So, other reciprocal. So, di ba ito nabanggit ko na kanina. So, this is circular function. Ayan, identity pa lang tawag doon. So, si sine ay baliktad ni 1 over cosecant. Therefore, si cosecant, 1 over sine. Baliktaran lang yan. And so on. Next is the Pythagorean identities. Di ba? Ito yung unang-una natin binanggit kanina. Okay? So, samahan siya ni 1 plus tangent squared theta equals, secant squared theta ito. Okay? So, yun ay nanggaling sa sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta is equal to 1. Divide lahat ng sine, ng cosine theta. Cosine theta. Ng cosine squared theta. So, cosine squared theta is equal, cosine squared theta. So, this is tangent squared theta plus, of course, 1 ito is equal to 1 over cosine theta. So, cosine, then naka-square siya, cosine squared theta. Sine squared theta. I'm sorry. It's secant squared theta. Okay? So, yan lang. So, kapag naman dinivide mo both side ito ng sine, ang makukuha mo ay 1 plus cotangent squared theta equals cosecant squared theta. Okay? So, that's Pythagorean term. Hindi nyo kailangan siya sa uluhin lahat. Practice lang na practice, masasaulo nyo siya. Okay? Mape-familiarize nyo siya. Hindi kailangan sa ulo, kailangan familiar lang kayo. Okay? So, madaming nasa listahan, pero konti lang inilagay ko dito. Ito yung mga pinakasikat. Okay? Reciprocal, of course, yung quotient, Pythagorean, yung double angle identity. So, yung sine 2a is equal to 2 sine cosine a, cosine 2. Yung cosine 2a naman, cosine squared a minus sine squared a. Okay? So, ito din, other double angle identities. So, ito hindi masyadong ginagamit. Pero ito lagi. Hindi nawawala ito. So, ito, saka ito, hindi din nawawala. Si tangent 2a is equal to 2 tangent a over 1 minus 2 tangent squared a. Okay. Ito din, hindi ito lagi nawawala. So, cosine squared theta equals kay 1 plus cosine 2 theta over 2. Kasi baliktaran lang. Ito pares siya, cosine squared at saka sine squared. Pinagkaiba lang positive at negative. Okay. Cosine positive, sine negative. Squared para kayo. So, half angle identities. So, parang ito lang din yun. In over 2 lang to. So, over 2 lang lahat din. Yan. So, half angle na yun. Okay. Solve tayo. So, sorry. It's the guidelines pala na proving identities. So, of course, walang general method kung paano mag-identity. It's your technique. Okay. We have different techniques sa pag-solve ng general equation. Ng trigonometric identities. So, proving. So, pwede nyo gamitin yung mga algebra method. Yes, you can. But may mga guidelines lang dito na kailangan wag natin babalikin. Okay? First, keep in mind all the fundamental identities. So, i-keep down natin itong mga ito. Yan. So, pwede, pag nagpa-practice kayo, pwede kayo magkaharap nyo yan. Then, go on lang. Proficiency in algebraic methods of simplifying fraction is often necessary. Okay? So, iti-treat mo sila na algebra. Better yun. Okay? So, preferably, it is easier to reduce a complicated member to simpler form than to expand the simpler one. So, syempre, mas madali na sa pagpuprove, i-reduce natin o i-simplify lang natin. Okay? Or pipiliin natin yung mas mahal, komplikadong part, then yun yung ating isi-simplify. Papunta dun sa kamukha ng mas simpleng part. If the function of the sum of the rectangles of two angles are involved, we do such function as a function of a single angle. Let's say, meron tayong cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta. Ay pwede naman natin siyang isulat ng cosine 2 theta. Diba? By identity. So, gagamitin na natin to para hindi madaming sulat. Okay? If several functions are involved, reduce them to the same function. So, ganun lang din. So, parang pagsamahin lang natin. If no neither method is possible, an identity can generally be proved by expressing each member in terms of sine and cosine. So, ito yung pinakang gamitin ko kung ako ang tatanungin ko. So, ang ginagawa ko, lahat ng identity nilalagay ko sa sine and cosine. Tinatanggal ko ang tangent and cotangent, secant and cosine. Lahat sila sine and cosine. And then, ititreat ko na sila as algebra. So, let's say, si sine equals kay x and si cosine is equal kay y. And that's it. Or baliktad. So, cosine is equal to x and y is equal to sine. Then, treat natin sila as algebra. Where x squared plus y squared is equal to 1. Ganon. And something like that. Okay? While working with one member of this equation towards the other member, the next step primarily a matter of observation. So, obserbahan nyo lang siya kung paano mo siya dadalhin doon sa kabilang part. The best way to develop the power of observation comes merely with constant practice. So, constant practice lang ang solution. Hindi po PM is the key. Ang key po ay practice. So, practice is the key. PK muna tayo. Okay? So, cross multiplication is never allowed when verifying identities. Ibig sabihin, hindi po natin gagalawin ang parehong side. Isa lang po ang gagalawin natin. Okay? So, pero mamaya tayo mag-proving. Magsisimplify muna tayo. Excuse me. Number 1, simplify each of the following by the use of the first fundamental identity. So, sisimplify lang natin ito, given. So, sine cube x plus sine x cosine squared x. Okay? So, makikita natin lahat present sa kanya si sine. Therefore, pwede nating ilabas si sine x. Sine cube x divided by sine x is sine squared x. Then, sine x divided by x, 1 plus sine x cosine squared x divided by sine x is cosine squared x. Okay? And then, si sine squared x plus cosine squared x, note natin, di ba, siya ay sine squared x plus cosine squared x ay equals kay 1 by trigonometric identity. So, therefore, so you have sine x is equal to 1 plus 1, which is 2. Therefore, 2 times sine x is 2 sine x. And then, ito yung kanyang simplified version. Okay? So, madali lang yan, syempre. Ano? So, pero hindi naman masyado maghihirap yung mga nasa exam natin. Okay? So, next tayo. So, sine x over 1 plus cosine x plus sine x over 1 minus cosine x. So, di ba kanina, treat down natin siya as, pag one fraction, algebra. Okay, kuha na natin LCD. So, ang LCD nito, yung product ng dalawa. Therefore, 1 plus cosine x. So, pag multiply pala natin yan, so, FOIL method na natin, 1 times 1, 1. 1 times negative cosine x is cosine x. Cosine x plus times 1, cosine x. Cosine x times negative cosine is negative cosine squared x. Okay? So, then, cross multiply pa. Ang tawag dito ng aking estudyante sa college, butterfly method. Kasi di ba, ganito daw siya, butterfly method. Butterfly method. Then ito, butterfly method daw yan. Di ba? So, cross multiply natin taas at baba. So, 1 minus cosine x times sine x. So, sine x times 1 is sine x. Sine x times negative cosine x, sine x, cosine x. So, sine x times 1 is sine x. Sine x times cosine x is sine x, cosine x. So, cancel natin to. And then we have sine x times plus sine x, 2 sine x over. So, cancel natin to. And we have 1 minus cosine squared x. And saan equals is 1 minus cosine squared x? Kay, so let's say dito ay 2 sine x over kay divide 2. So di ba sine squared x plus cosine squared x equals 1. So ilipat natin ari. Oh, di ba? So natira na sa atin is sine squared x is equal to 1 minus cosine squared x. So pwede po natin gawin yon. So therefore, si 1 minus cosine squared x equals kay sine squared x, which is, cancel natin to. We have 2 over sine x and 1 over sine x is equal to 2 cosecant x. And that's it. Wala kahirap na yun. Okay? And then number 3. So number 3 natin. So sabi, mas madali kapag nilagay natin sa sine at cosine lahat. So therefore, we have cosine x, therefore, siya ay 1 over sine x. Over sa tangent, sine x over cosine x. Plus si cotangent, cosine x over sine x. Diba? So, butterfly method natin, ari. Ari. Yan. So, 1 over sine x over na malaki. So, sine times sine x. So, sine times sine x, sine squared x. Plus cosine times cosine x, so cosine squared x. Over cosine x times sine x is cosine x sine x. And then ito, sine squared x, cosine squared x, 1 lang yan, di ba? So, trigonometric identities. Yung ano, Pythagorean. So, therefore, 1 over sine x times, the reciprocal nito is cosine x sine x over 1. So, cancel natin to. Therefore, siya equals na pala siya kay cosine x. That's it. Okay, so madali lang siya. And then, proving identities naman tayo. I think we have 4 here. Okay. Excuse me. Prove the following identities. So, again, pipili lang tayo ng kung left or right yung ating ipo-prove. And then, syempre, ang ating iiwanan yung mas madali. Ang i-simplify natin yung mas mahirap. In this case, cosine x over 1 plus sine x plus 1 plus sine x over cosine x equals to 2 secant x. So, mas madali itong 2 secant x. Ang mas simple. So, therefore, yan ang iwanan natin. So, excuse me. So, iwanan natin siya. So, cosine x. So, butterfly method lang natin. Butterfly method. Butterfly method. Ayan. So, cosine x times cosine x is cosine squared x. Plus 1 times 1. So, FOIL method natin siya. So, 1 times 1 is 1. Plus 1 times sine x is sine x. So, sine x times 1 is sine x. So, sine x times sine x is sine squared x. Over. So, multiply natin to. So, cosine x times 1 plus sine x. So, dapat daw siya ay equals kay 2 secant x. Ganun muna natin. Guys, may nangyayaring hindi pala siya identity. So, nakalagay natin not identical. Ganun pag hindi nag-identity. Okay? So, pwedeng gawin nyo muna, mag-substitute muna tayo sa x ang value. Dapat pag sinubstitute natin dito lahat ay 45, tapos dito din, dapat para sila sagot. Okay? So, cosine x saka si sine squared x ay equals kay 1. Diba? So, therefore, yung nasa taas pala ay equals kay 1 plus 1. So, 1 plus 1 plus 2 sine x over cosine x times 1 plus sine x is equal, question mark muna, 2 secant x. So, ito, palitan na natin ng 2. Yan. Okay. Then, ilabas natin. So, 2 over 2, ilabas natin. So, 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 sine x divided by 2 is sine x over cosine x times 1 plus sine x equals 2 secant x. So, cancel natin siya. And then, si 2 over cosine x is 2 second x. And then check natin siya. Kasi equal siya. Okay? So that's it. And then number 2. Doon yung kahit naman natin ang galawin natin. So cosine squared x equal to cosecant x, cosine x over tangent x plus cotangent x. Okay? So gawin natin cosine squared x itong right side. Okay? So cosine squared x is equal to, dapat daw itong part na to. So sabi kanina, gawin muna natin lahat sine at cosine. So cosecant x equals kay 1 over sine x. And cosine x over sa tangent x equals kay sine over x, sine over cosine. So cotangent ay cosine over sine. And then butterfly method lang natin to. And ito hindi naman. So cosine x over sine x. Over, so sine times sine, sine squared x. Plus cosine times cosine is cosine squared x. Over cosine times sine x is cosine x sine x. And then, so cosine squared x is equal to, so ito ay 1. And then, ano lang natin, cosine x sine x times yung reciprocal ng denominator, which is cosine x over sine x over 1. So, cancel natin siya. So, cosine x times cosine x is equal to cosine squared x. And that's it. Walang kahirap-hirap. Okay? So, yun lang ating identity. And then, number 4. Number 3. Sorry, nabigla naman tayo. Number 3. So, tangent squared x over tangent squared x plus 1 equals sine squared x. Okay? So, ano na natin? Lagyan na natin sine squared x over, so iwanan natin itong sine squared x na kasi siya ang mas madali. Cosine squared x over sine squared x over cosine squared x plus 1. Then, ano natin itong baba? Butterfly method. So, sine squared x to. So, sine squared x over cosine squared x over, so cosine squared x times 1 is cosine squared x over cosine squared x. And this is 1. Question mark muna natin. 1 na yung dalawang yan. And then, sine squared x over cosine squared x. Multiply natin kay reciprocal ng 1 over cosine squared x, which is cosine squared x over 1 equal to sine squared x. And then cancel natin. Therefore, we have sine squared x is equal to sine squared x. And that's correct. Okay? So, simple lang. So, simple basta may meron tayong listahan ng identity. Okay? So, alam natin kung paano lumitin. Okay? So, like example natin. So, therefore, dadalhin natin siya dito. Okay? So, 1 minus 2 cosine squared x is equal to, so tangent squared x, so sine squared x over cosine squared x minus 1 over, itong nasa baba, ganun din. Yun nga lang plus. Okay. And then, walang problema. Butterfly method lang natin. So, sine squared x minus cosine squared x over cosine squared x over, so sine squared x plus, butterfly method din yan, cosine squared x over cosine squared x. Okay, so that equals kay 1 minus 2 cosine squared x, 1 minus 2 cosine squared x. Okay? And then ito ay equals kay 1. Diba? So, sine squared x minus cosine squared x over cosine squared x times cosine squared x over 1. So reciprocal. Then cancel na natin to. Therefore, we have 1 minus 2 cosine squared x. Question mark pala. Sine squared x minus cosine squared x. Okay? So, saan ba equal si sine squared theta? So, kailangan maging cosine kasi siya kasi cosine na nandito. Di ba siya equals kay sine squared theta x plus cosine squared x is equal to 1. Saan daw equals ito? Ilipat natin doon. Di ba? So, sine squared x ay equals kay 1 minus cosine squared x. Okay? So, 1 minus 2 cosine squared x is equal to, let's check. So, sine squared x, papalitan natin ng 1 minus cosine squared x. And 1 minus cosine squared. Then, ito ay pareho. So, negative 1 minus negative 1 is 1 minus 2 cosine squared x. Which is, yun ang nasa kabilang side natin. Okay? So, doon na po nagtatapos ang ating pre-calculus. Okay? So, guys, pakitapos po sa mga natitira nating araw ay pakitapos lahat po ng ating module. And then, please be ready po sa ating final examination ng pre-calculus. And then, for our guys, make sure na tapos na po natin next week. So, sa Friday, hanggang Friday ang ating module, and hihintayin ko ang pinaka-late na is 7. Okay? So December 7 po ang ating pinaka-deadline, and all ay will merit po 50%. Okay? So 50% lang po makukuha nating grade sa lahat na magpapasa beyond ng December 7. Okay? So para hindi na tayo mahihirapan. So hindi nahihirapan tayong magsunson kung sino ang wala pang module. Okay? So para hindi tayo magkakaroon ng problema. And then, I will make sure na the following week ay meron ng grade. Okay? Kasi lahat ng hindi makakatanggap ng walang maipasang module, okay, so I will grade you 80%. Okay, so final grade. Okay, so thank you very much, guys, and see you na lang tayo. See you na lang sa basic calculus. Okay, so basic calculus, your last calculus in your senior high school STEM. Okay, thank you very much, and God bless you all. And sana next SEM, desidido na kayo kung ano ang kukuhanin yung kurso sa inyong college, kasi kailangan nyo na mag-isip ng kurso na kukuhanin nyo sa college. Okay? Thank you very much and all again, and God bless.